do you hold back when you're talking about politics, or do you, or like, do you edit yourself at all? Because you're pretty awesome with what you say, and I always wonder, is he holding back? Because if you
Well,
are,
I'm always tempted to be a bit more bombastic, but sometimes I sort of know better. Like I know when I make political posts, like most of my Facebook friends are going to feel exactly the same way I do. Mm. And I know when I make posts, it's not going to convince anybody who doesn't think the way I do. So in a sense, I know better, but sometimes I just get so furious about something that I just have to kind of vent on Facebook. And my Facebook friends will pat me on the back and say, it's okay, Joe, you can settle down now. But yeah, I mean, I try to be somewhat creative about it. Like I don't write things like, Trump is a filthy rotter and anyone who doesn't believe that can unfriend me right now. I try to be a little bit more clever than that, but even though that's what I want to say. But yeah.
Yeah,
at least
I agree.
But you see my posts enough to know that the political posts are only occasional. And usually, I try to do them just on Sundays, really, but it's usually the fucking Christians that piss me off most of all.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of another story.
Oh, nice.
Jesus.
Speaking of Jesus.
Yes, back in the beginning of my writing career, I think my first book had come out and it was getting some pretty good attention and it was selling a lot of copies, and I was getting called up to do interviews and speaking gigs and things like that. And I was a little bit full of myself and this, I'm thinking, hey, this is working out okay. And wait a minute, I just lost you. And so I got invited to come down to Claremont, New Hampshire and talk at the library. So I was giving one of my spiels about something or other. And then at the end, there was a Q&A section. So somebody asked the inevitable question, you write about all this scary stuff. What really scares you? And without giving it any thought at all, I just shot back, Christians.
Oh man!
New Hampshire.
Then I knew immediately that I needed to, install some self-censoring stuff. And then there's this one guy in the way back, and then a bunch of people started clapping, and then a bunch of people started laughing, and I said, "I got away with it this time, but I'll never do it again."
Yeah.
So yeah. What is so scary?
Sorry, Jason.
What made you say that immediately? What is so scary?
I find Christians terrifying, and it's worse now. I mean, that was back in the late 80s, and I guess I don't mean all Christians. I mean the militant ones that want to tell us how to think and behave and dress in a certain way, and that easily forgive violence if it isn't consistent with their ways of thinking, and want to control women's bodies and want to control everybody's thoughts. And I don't like them. I think religion in general has just done a whole lot more bad than good. So I probably shouldn't even be saying that on this podcast, but
we're fine. We talk about anything, but
yeah. Well, let's hope you don't lose any viewers.
This can only gain. We can only go up.
I've been sort of a self-disclosing sort of mood.
Yeah, well,
that's all good. I got to disclose. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Christians, I did a post not long ago on Facebook about Christians and how much I thought that it was actually a negative in society. And of course, my, I guess, ex-in-laws, they're all Catholics, which is, in my opinion, the worst Christians. But they're just Catholics, so they're not like, they don't do anything to anybody. They just practice it or whatever. But I find it so amazing that I can make it a statement like, Christianity has been responsible for so much violence and death throughout time. And then they can come back at me and say things like, no, Christianity, those are just not real Christians that are doing that. And I'm just like, what? Wait, if you say you're a Christian and you're practicing Christianity and you do violence, that makes them not Christians suddenly. Well, okay, but they're doing it in the name. What if they say they're doing it in the name of their religion? Now are they still Christians? And like, it seems kind of ridiculous to be able to just, oh, they did something that considered bad, so now we're just going to call them not Christians. But it's the religion that's pushing them in that way. So it is that, just because someone doesn't mean that.
I've heard that too, Jason, like from several people that I know that there are definitely people that I know and respect that call themselves Christians and will say like that same thing, that like people doing these violent things are not real Christians. And there's definitely that sentiment, like there's that authoritarian right, and like in those type of Christians that I think those are the people that scare you, right? And like rightfully so, I think, because they want to impose their will and fascism on everybody. But it is interesting to think about but I think the thing about that religion is like there's so many different ways of interpreting it and practicing it, right? Like, so you can see why like maybe one might go one way, and one might go another way. And like in the Bible is a piece of literature, I mean, and in my opinion, right? And so people, you bring into it some of your life experience and how you interpret any piece of literature, right? Like two people might read one of your books, Joe, and have very different takeaways. And so that's sort of how I see that whole like real Christian, not real Christian. I think it's just different interpretations of a text or a practice, and some are totally fine and innocuous and others are not so great.
Well, I guess the people I worry about are those that want to knock down the wall between church and state. It has nothing to do with how they might interpret the 23rd Psalm. It has to do with taking the wall down, making. I'm hoping somebody else will pick that up. That's maybe. Yeah. Who? Sorry. I'm worried about the people that think Trump was sent by God to deliver us. And I'm worried about Christians in the sense that Christian thinking can develop that sort of mania. And I don't think it's reserved to just Christianity. I think it's other religions as well. It's the cultism within the religious thought. And it's always interesting for me in the work that I do to try to figure out how people can adamantly not believe in ghosts and not believe in supernatural experiences when they do in fact believe in supernatural experiences. They believe that there's a God and there's a Jesus, and that the wine changes to blood and the bread changes to flesh. I had trouble with that even as a little kid, and I was Catholic too. Were you Catholic, Jason?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I remember so much of that was just tediously irrational to me, even as a little kid. And for example, well, if God built the universe in 6 days and on the seventh day he rested, well, how come he had to rest if he's all powerful? Why did he need to rest? I mean, those little simplistic thoughts started to intrude on my ability to be a religious thinker. But still, so sometimes I think I just displaced a all this early religious upbringing with my interest in supernatural and ghost stories and UFOs and monsters and serial killers and all that fun stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. There's this this is me in Catholic school on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly.
What, Jason? That doesn't make any sense. If he already knew what was going to happen, why would he let something happen and then wait and then implement something to stop what he started and then criticize the humanity for something he allowed to have happen, but he knew the whole time? and like is he crazy or is he sadistic? Like what is going on there? Is he playing games with himself? Like
I feel like a lot of the stories.
It's really hard for a little kid.
There's this great meme that I am trying to find that I absolutely adore. And it sums up what I have tried to explain to people that confuses me. And it does it better than I ever could. And of course, I got 70 comments underneath it.
you can find it and post it in this interview.
Yeah, I will definitely do that.
Put it up there.
Yeah, I will. But yeah, it's the whole thing about about all being all knowing, being all loving, and being all seeing, and then implementing things along the way. It's just like it doesn't make sense. And of course they go, well, of course it works. He works in mysterious ways. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not for you to know.
That's right, exactly. But okay, sorry. It's hard to not talk about that once it gets brought up. So I do things like that.